Hey guys, so today we are getting into it with the 7 deadly mistakes that home sellers make every single day. There's a lot of mistakes that you can make as a seller, but these are the 7 deadliest mistakes. But before we get into that, if you're new to my channel, welcome. This channel is all about real estate content, all things Palm Beach County. We do neighborhood walkthroughs. We do videos like these, how to sell your house, how to buy the perfect home, mortgage information. Please hit that subscribe button and show me some love. And also, if you could hit the bell, that will notify you of my new videos. And we try to have them up every week. All right, guys, that being said, let's get into this video now. All right, so I'm going to start off this deadly 7 list with curb appeal. That's right. So as a realtor, I want you to get into my mind. It could be a fun place, could be a scary place. But when I walk into a house, I have this little dollar sign that kind of just pops up on the right-hand side of, sometimes it's on the left end, but usually it's on the right-hand side, where that dollar sign, you know, it starts to equate a value. And that number will go up or down as I walk through the house. So when I show up, I drive up with my glorious MKZ Lincoln vehicle, which I am not sponsored by Lincoln, but I should be someday. Lincoln, I hope you're listening. So I drive up and the house is not mowed and there's no curb appeal and there's no yard work done, there's no fresh flowers, there's no fresh mulch. It all just looks, the dollar sign goes ching, 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 ching down, and it goes down by the thousands. It's actually one of the areas that all the experts say, a lot of the experts, people that I respect and follow, say that if you're gonna put any money into getting your house ready, do it on the outside. First impressions are huge, and you only get one first good impression. Sometimes you get lucky and people will come back if there's not enough inventory, but sometimes you're not that lucky and they'll just move right on. I've had numerous buyers not even want to go into a house that I thought, as their agent, was a perfect fit because they just didn't like the outside, didn't like the vibe. Something was off. So it is well worth your time to mow the yard, put some mulch down, act like you care about your house a little bit, and it can actually, to make the place look thousands of dollars more that you can put in your pocket at the end. And it doesn't have to be like you hire a landscaper and you do all this crazy stuff. Just general maintenance to make the place look, you know, top notch for those showings. Next is the front door. The experts agree with me when I say, make sure that door looks good. If it needs to be painted, paint it. And that goes for the outside of the house too. It's well worth it, even if you do a color match and you just paint the front house, just the front wall, front walkway up to the house. That will help tremendously. The first impressions are, it's a psychological thing. Buyers need to just start to have these like yeses in their head. Okay, does the front look suitable? Yes. Okay, walking up, is the front door, does it, because you know people are going to be living there, they got to have kind of an emotional connection to the property. You already want them to have like 3 or 4 yeses before they even get inside the house. The alternative side, if you don't do anything with curb appeal, it's going to be like no, 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 and then it's going to be they open the front door, and you could have a nice inside of the house, but you're already up against headwind. You don't have any momentum going into the actual presentation of the inside of the house. I think the outside of the house is just as important as the inside in some cases, depending on the buyer. But it is very important. So I can't overstate it enough. If you don't have an eye for this stuff, I would recommend getting a realtor that can give you an honest opinion of the property, if the front needs to be painted, what needs to happen in order for it to have very good front photos, which will drive buyers to the property, so that you can get the maximum amount of money for your property. So we're moving on to the next point. The next deadly mistake that sellers make, that I see happen all the time, and this is a big topic. I can make a whole video. I could probably make a whole series on this specific deadly mistake. It's not preparing the property for the buyer's eye. A lot of sellers, in my opinion, and I say this respectfully, don't have any business trying to prepare their house for sale. They're It's not what their profession is. It's not, you know, what they do every day. I mean, there's some DIY stuff, you can learn to do it, but it can very much help if you don't have an eye for this stuff to hire a stager or a realtor that has expert knowledge in this area. This cannot be understated, this deadly mistake. I've seen it happen a number of times. Thankfully, a lot of my sellers have listened to my advice. The ones that haven't usually pay for it in one way or another. So I'm gonna give you some practical advice for preparing your house for the buyer's eye. So number one, and kind of like most expensively, is to neutralize the color of your house. Get rid of that neon green walls that you have. Buyers like to visualize themselves there, so you want to have universal appeal. So get rid of those crazy accent walls and neutralize. Next, I would highly advise that you depersonalize the property. Take down the wedding photos. Let's get those things in boxes and prepare you for the next house. Get all of the kid photos off the walls. It's all about the buyer and the buyer being able to visualize themselves in this property. All these little things, they do add up. Next, and this is an important one that gets overlooked, is to make sure the odor of the house is nice, pleasant to walk into. I think it adds a lot. If you can get a nice scented candle, or, you know, there's something about walking into a house and you smell fresh brownie. Smell is a big factor. All right, next. All right, guys, to wrap up this point, I would say the last item would be to clean. And I mean deep clean the house, summer, springtime cleaning, whatever you want to call it. If you aren't a very clean person, and some of you don't understand that you're not a clean person, you think that something that's dirty is clean, you know, clean is dirty type of thing, I always recommend hiring the professionals. There's just another set of eyes will always do a better job. In my opinion, if they're a professional company. You want to have the baseboards, the top of the baseboards, all that dust cleared off. You want all of the surfaces in the house to shine. Squeaky, 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 squeaky. So what dirt equates to a buyer is two things. Dirt shows just as bad as clutter, number one, and number two, dirt actually signals to the buyer that the seller has not taken care of their house. I've heard it a number of times in my showings. People will see that the house is dirty, they'll put their fingers on the countertop and, you know, they got some dust up on their fingers, and they just start to think that, you know, the house was neglected, that the people lived rough, and that there's a whole slew of things that they're going to discover in the inspection period, which, you know, may or may not be the case. So cleaning is a must. Hire the professionals. Better to have them do it than you do it. I mean, if you don't have the resources. I do want to link a company down at the bottom of the comments here. Curbio. Curbio is a really cool company that will actually loan you the money to do a deep clean. Let's say your house is in like filthy condition and you need like a $300, $400 deep clean. Well, they can get that done. If you need painting done, you spend a couple $1,000s in painting, you can get that done also. And how that works is this company, Curbio, will loan you the money and then it gets paid back to them off of the closing disclosure. I would advise you to go to their website, check it out, check out how all that works, the rules and guidelines. I'll create a video on that. That'd be really helpful. Go through those specific details. But there are other companies like Curbio out there where you don't have to come up with any money, you just pay for it off of the closing disclosure, which can be a big relief if you don't have a whole lot of cash. Okay, you ready for the next deadly? Here it is. Pricing your house incorrectly. Brandon, I got you. You're just trying to get me to lower my price of my house so that you can sell it easier. That's what some sellers might be thinking at this point if you are actually consider selling your house. Nothing could be further from the truth. So let's just start with some of the basics here, and then we'll get into it. This is an important point, and I didn't want to say it was the most important point because I think all of these combined, you know, add up to a successful, you know, sale or an unsuccessful transaction. So here it is. When you're pricing your home, the price that you put to start off with is telling the whole market, the whole world, that that is the maximum price that you are willing to accept for your house, right? So all sellers are afraid of pricing it too low, right? Well, and then you were going to run into a problem though if you price it too high. What happens is buyers will look at 15 on average, 15 to 20 homes as well as your own before they make a decision. And if the other homes on the market are considerably less and they are the same home, same layout, same square footage, what have you, buyers aren't going to take, and their buyer agents aren't going to take your house seriously. And so what this will equate to is your home sitting on the market for many months, and new buyers coming out on the market will actually think there's something wrong with your house, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Especially in this market right now. At the time of this video, we're in 2020, and it is a crazy, crazy seller market right now. So when you are considering selling a house, pricing your house is one of the top considerations, of course. So you need to net a certain amount to be able to move, for it to be feasible for you to move. Totally understand that. So research is required. Don't just go to Zillow and look at the Zillow's estimate. That will do nothing for you, in my humble opinion. In fact, you actually should have a professional real estate agent or an appraiser actually pull this information for you. You need to know this. What did the homes similar to yours, preferably in your neighborhood, what did they sell for? What do they close for last 6 months? You can even go back 12 months. An appraiser is really not going to be looking at that in terms of appraisal value information. They want to know that the first 6 months. But I go back 12 months. I even go back further because I want to look at market trends. Is the trend going up in the neighborhood, or is it trending down? Also, what you need to know is, are there any expireds that have happened in your neighborhood in the last 6 months? Why did they expire? So, and then in my opinion, depending on your timing and motivation, you want to find out what your competitors are, the competing properties, and you should price them relatively the same, or depending on how motivated you are, slightly under what those ones are priced at, in my humble opinion. And that, depends on, the amount of upgrades that you have in your house and whatnot. So when talking about pricing your house, I always like to break down what is the number of buyers for your house. And you can actually estimate that number using market stats, which is pretty cool. We can actually go back and we can look at homes within a mile radius of your house, same living square footage and relatively bedrooms, bathrooms, what have you. We can go month by month, how many buyers bought. So you can go back and you can say, all right, January, February, March, April. In January, there were 30. And in February, there were 32. And then in March, there was 50 for some reason. It got really hot. And then, so then you can kind of begin to estimate, all right, well, the average is we have 36 buyers for my specific house. So then you need to figure out, with these 36 buyers, what they're going to be looking at, what competition, and then you got to price it accordingly. You got to be competitive with what's currently on the market. And these buyers, you kind of will look at them by price bracket. This is a lot easier for me to do using my charts. Whenever I have a listing consultation, I break these numbers out and I say, at this price bracket, Mr. Seller, we're at the $500,000 price point, at the $490 price point, at the $480, at the $470 price point. And as you go down, there's always more buyers, and sometimes it's by double. A seller might be like, I will sell my house for $480,000, Brandon, but I want to start at $500,000. So at $500,000, there might be 20 buyers for that. But at the 480, there might be 50 buyers, which will create a lot more demand. And maybe there's not comps to support that. It could even appraise at 500,000. So why would you price it there? The experts all say this. I say this myself. I consider myself as an area expert. If you price it to sell, despite whatever market that we're in, it will sell. If it's a hot market, even better, because what will happen is you could get a bidding war happening and you get people doing crazy things like going above list price and making the terms sweeter, putting more money down, or, waiving their appraisal contingency. I've been able to get that done in a number of my own transactions. That's always a big relief off of the seller's chest, because if we're going way above list and we're not sure if it's going to appraise, you like to have that negotiated. So anyways, that was a lot on price. We're gonna move on to our next point. All right, guys, so here's the next deadly. It is signing a long-term listing agreement with a real estate agent and not having specific performance guarantees. So what do I mean by performance guarantees? Well, I have one that's pretty straightforward. It's simply this: your home sold guaranteed at a price acceptable to you, or I pay you the difference. So that's a pretty strong guarantee. And I don't know, depending on what area you're in and whatever, you might not have agents that are willing to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, like that. But you can build into the listing agreement specific performance guarantees. How about this one? If your agent does not communicate with you within 24 hours, that should be, an agent should be getting back to you in a few hours anyways, because it's their job, right? But if they don't get back to you within 24 hours, they pay you $100. Okay, how about this one? If you find out that your agent lied about their qualifications, they said that they sold this many houses and whatnot, and you actually find out that it wasn't true, they sold half of that amount. Well, the performance guarantee should say something like, if you lied about your qualifications, then you have to pay $5,000 of your commission to the charity of your choice. Boom, how about that? These are communication, and agents lying about their qualifications are some of the big hot points. So right then and there, I just gave you 2 freebies. You can write them right into that listing presentation. You get to hold your agent to some of these performances, because you need them to perform, you need them to be motivated. So I think that's a very good idea, and something to think about when you are actually signing a listing agreement to get your home sold. All right, we're moving on to the next. All right, guys, here's the next deadly. It is selling too hard at the presentation of the house. So this is a common one, and at this point, I think it would be good to take a poll of the audience. So I'm asking you, should the listing agent of the property be there for every single showing? We're gonna do 2 sides here. How many say yes, and how many say no? Well, I say, in my professional opinion, and thank you for doing the poll for me, that no, the listing agent should not be at the property for the showings, and neither should the seller. Why am I saying that? Well, here are the reasonings. The buyer is going to be living in the property, so the buyer's significant other need to feel like they can nest, they can have an emotional connection to the property. Very hard to do when you have another agent there that they don't know and they don't trust, and there's, probably some mistrust there because that's not their agent trying to sell them on all the finer points of the house. It's much better to have the buyer's agent actually go through and show them the features and benefits of the house. The best buyer agents that I know, and I am a very good buyer agent myself, are constantly trying to get the buyer, if it's a good fit for the buyer, to envision themselves in the property. So to see placement of furniture, to see how they would use certain spaces, which room would be the office. A lot of people working from home nowadays, how to lay out their furniture, their master bedroom. So that's not really something that people are going to be talking about if the seller's right there, because they don't want to insult the seller and be like, seller, we don't really like how you laid out your furniture, don't like the taste of your furniture, and this is how we would do it. So all of these conversations would not happen. But if the buyer is alone with their agent, if the buyer's agent has been coached by the listing agent on all of the details, I do this, all of my listings, I actually do coaching the buyer's agents, make sure they have a list of, we just can also print out a list of the specific details. And another thing, if you're really concerned about buyers missing out on specific details, you want them to make sure they know there's impact windows, which is a big one. You could put a little sticky note. I have these cool little sticky notes. You can put them on the sliders on the windows and be, impact windows and doors, different things like that. Or if pantry has pull-out cabinets, you can put a little arrow and say pull-out cabinets. It's kind of neat. But really, it's all about the emotional connection for the buyer. So if you've done the steps to prepare the house in terms of the presentation, there's no odors, it's clean, it's depersonalized, colors are neutral, you have good curb appeal. When the buyer's in there, if it's a fit for them, they will need to begin to connect with the property, and that's the term I like to call nesting. So just a quick story. I had one property that was a really, I thought it was a phenomenal property, you know, in the Loxahatchee area. The seller was there for every single showing, and the seller, not the listing agent, but the seller showed the property off to every buyer that went there. And the seller thought he knew something because he was a salesman, and I think he was a darn good salesman, like an AC salesman or something like that. I don't remember. But I went there with my buyer thinking that I would probably be making an offer on this property with this buyer. The seller oversold the crap out of the property, and it really ticked me off because it was such a good fit. It turned the buyers off. The seller walked us around the property, wouldn't even let us talk. He was dominating the whole conversation, and he was pointing out all the, you know, the bells and whistles, all the finer points of the property, and it just ticked my buyers off, you know. And in some cases, other buyers might not mind it as much, but there was no time for them to kind of think about organizing the house the way that they would want it, and visualizing themselves being there. The seller did all the thinking for us. He was telling us how they should use the house and what they should do for furniture and all this stuff. And anyway, the house, it didn't sell. It actually sat on the market, and the listing expired, and the seller probably, I don't know what happened with that listing, but I think he relisted, and hopefully the other listing agent was able to convince him to not be there for the showings. I bet it sold immediately. Anyways, so that's it. I think I nailed that. Guys, thanks so much for being with me so long with this video. I hope you've been enjoying it. We are down to our final point, and here it is. So here is the point. So here is the 7th deadly mistake that home sellers make. It's not preparing the house for a home inspection. That's right. Did you know that you can actually get a pre-home inspection? I advise that on all of my listings. You want to get ahead of any repair items that can come up. These all become points of negotiation that you don't want to have to do after the fact, after sometimes a bruising negotiation with the price and the terms of the contract. Then at least here in the state of Florida, there's a inspection period of which the buyer can actually back out of the contract, the way our as-is contracts are set up, or, you know, renegotiate, you know, what they find. So I have a phenomenal home inspector. They will do a pre-home inspection. Huge benefit of having this information before a buyer comes. You can actually find out what the cost of these items are to be. And you know, if it's minor things, buyers usually are looking for the big ticket items: AC, roof, mold. You know, here in Florida, that's a hot ticket item. They want to know if appliances are working. They want to know about termites. So if you can get a handle on some of these items beforehand, you can really mitigate any ugly blow-ups during the inspection period. So we want to avoid those. Pre-home inspection is always advisable. Money always well spent. You can actually use that pre-home inspection report to actually negotiate with the buyer. Even before they go under contract, you could actually give the buyer a copy of that and say, these are the items that came up, these are the items that we took care of, these are the items that we won't take care of. You have no need to do your own home inspection. You can still do it if you want, but a lot of times buyers will say, okay, well, this is good enough. We're just going to put a big 0 on the inspection period, which is what all sellers want to get through as quickly as possible, because that's the buyer's, you know, out of the contract. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any ideas of more videos, please comment below. I'll get those rolling for you. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please share. Remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of other videos that I have coming up. Guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.